Good morning, Coldwell Banker Central Region. My name is Bob Burns. I'm the Regional VP for the Southwest Wisconsin area and the Northwest Chicagoland suburbs. We call it the Northwest region and Wisconsin. Welcome to our second view from the top panel, and it couldn't be a more appropriate day to have a second panel because it's 2-2-22. So welcome to our number two view from the top panel on 2-2-22. We're thrilled that you're here. Thank you for joining us. And I want to jump right into the lead generation discussion with an introduction to each of our panelists. So why don't we start up in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Rami, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing? Again, like he said, my name is Rami. It's Rami Kwarmu, but if you can't remember it, I always say Rami like salami. Everyone seems to remember it at that point. It's a little easier. I'm actually originally out from the East Coast. I'm an East Coast boy, born and raised in Jersey, lived in New York most of my life, ended up moving up to Buffalo, New York with my wife. She's an emergency medicine pediatrician in the ER. Her job has taken us out here to the Midwest. So we went from the fridge to the freezer, like I was just telling everyone. It's a good time. I like it out here. I went to Johnson & Wales for hospitality, played on a golf scholarship. You know, my family's always been in business. We've always done business, very traditionally relationship based. So when I moved out here to the Midwest, things to seem kind of just float in the way they should. Now this is going into my fifth year into real estate. I remember it feels like just the other day, I was, sitting in the office lost and confused. But I do a lot of my business, I should say the majority of my business is all geographic farming and relationship-based events. And I just kind of, go from there overall. But it's done well. I enjoy it. It's created a lot of real relationships and it's made my business a lot easier. I feel like I deal with a lot of great transactions. I feel like I don't necessarily have a lot of the same headaches that some people may have. But yet again, in my mind, it all depends on what the headaches are, right? But I do enjoy it. I mean, it's a lot of boots on the ground, a lot of fun times overall.
Awesome. Easy is good. We're definitely going to come back around to some of the themes
Yeah.
that you mentioned. Let's flip over to Schaumburg, Illinois, and Janine Sasso. Janine, tell us a little bit about yourself and about your business, the hyperlocal agent.
I was just to say, good morning, Coldwell Banker. I am so excited to share with you some of the hyper-local strategies. So if you know me on Facebook, then you know me as the hyper-local agent. I also geographically farm in conjunction with direct mail marketing. This is kind of what I'm going to be diving into a lot more. And my business is about 6 years old at this point, and it's been phenomenal. On top of everything else, leading life, doing mom things, I was able to build my business, and I'm going to share like the easy stuff with you. So that would be me.
All right, we're continuing with the easy theme. I love it. Thank you, Janine. And let's round things out in Northwest Indiana with Nancy Frigo. Nancy, tell us a little bit about you and your business, please.
Hello, Coldwell Banker. Good morning. Thank you for having me today. I've been in the industry close to almost 30 years, 3 decades. I started when I was 2. No, actually I did. Oh, geez, let me think. I was a single mom with 2 kids, little children actually, when I started out in the business, and I just knew that I just set goals and went after it. So early on, I bought a franchise. I owned a Century 21 for 10 years and learned that. I was a general contractor and a developer. It just kind of fell into all these things because in real estate, you have these opportunities. And I always say opportunities like a bus, you hop on, you hop off at certain points in your life, which has led me to a lot of really great relationships. I have a team of agents that work for me. I've always believed in having teams. That's my business mantra. And because being a single parent, it was really hard, to juggle Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, daisies, whatever, and PTA and things like that. So if you had clients, I didn't want to, give my clients a bad experience. So I had someone else as a backup usually. And a lot of times it's hard to do that as a single parent, but we made it happen. And since then, though, I headed up, created a boots on the ground, pretty much became in the building industry. I work with a lot of builders and things now, but I'm also a licensed teacher, and I teach the basic fundamentals of new construction development for the course for the state of Indiana. My market share is Illinois, Southwest, or the Chicagoland market, Northwest Indiana and the southwest part of Michigan, and I have agents positioned throughout that market. Lately, though, I've been really, I started out, the first thing I ever sold in real estate was a grocery store. So I've always done commercial too. And my niche right now really is working with commercial and educating the area that Coldwell Banker here in Northwest Indiana is very strong with both. We do both. We do commercial and residential. We haven't had that opportunity before with a lot of different things. And now with the train coming from the Chicagoland market, we're going to see a huge influx of a lot of growth for these different towns and cities. I'm excited. And I'm excited to be here today.
We're excited to have you. We're excited to have all three of you, but why don't we stay with you, Nancy? And you've got a lot of territory that you cover. You've got a large team to support. You've got a lot of different types of businesses that you're involved in, but let's maybe narrow it down to just residential right now. What do you think is your number one go-to strategy for generating leads to feed not only you, but your entire team? What's the number one for you at this moment?
Well, I believe that, really it's a people business and it's all about relationships. Everything that stems from everything we have right now in my almost 30 years is referrals and farming every single day. We're out there farming. And so what I do with my team is I designate different areas because I cannot be everywhere. And so depending on what your goals are, where you're at, and we farm through I do my yearly events schedule right off the bat every year too, to make sure we're hitting every single month with something going on in the different communities. And so with that though, it's being really engaged with that and hosting events. You name it. I think we've tried pretty much everything, but I have to say right now it's about referrals and relationships. And with that, I mean, being in the business for that long, for instance, like there's some families that, maybe they got married, they had kids, now the kids are getting married, having kids. So with that, I keep in touch with them, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a mailer, put them on your auto prospecting, just send them out their, yearly calendar of events, things, even if it's one touch a month, they're still being touched. And so I was around when they created Top Producer and they created the internet with real estate. So I've seen a lot of programs come and go over the years, but you really can't go wrong with the personal touch. So every single day, I try to engage with at least five clients or past clients that we've had. And I've taught my agents, especially some of my agents that have been with me for years, their experience, the rewards of that, because one in particular has been with me for about 8 years. And so she has done that. And now she's seeing the repeat business now coming from that, and it grows.
Awesome. There's a lot to dig into there. What I really resonated with was your touch 5 a day. And that doesn't sound like much. It's fairly easy to do on one day, but you do it every day. That's 25 in a week. 25
especially on the weekends.
Oh, yeah. So there you go. So now you're up to 35 during a week if you're touching 5 a day, 7 days a week, and there's 52 weeks in a year. So that is a lot of, to use your word, engagement. And I really just believe engagement is so key. So well done. We're going to come back to that engagement in a second because I want to dig into agents run out of things to say, but we'll come back around to that. And I want to go up north to Woodbury, Minnesota. Rami, I heard the word farming, and part of the thing that you and I have talked a lot about are your farming efforts. Would you say farming is your number one lead gen technique right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I think farming is my main 90% of the business in conjunction to open houses. I mean, before COVID, I was doing, a ton of open houses when I was planting a lot of the seeds for the farm originally. Open houses was my second go-to thing, just because I knew if I got in front of somebody, I can sell myself. I was never good at cold calling. I was never good at, doing everything else that, that some people do. It wasn't my thing. It didn't feel natural. I just knew I needed to get in front of somebody. I like to talk. Some might say I talk too much. Some say it's the East Coast of me. Some, I don't know, but I mean, I get a lot of that. I mean, I hear it all the time, but I don't know. It works. It works for me. I like connecting with people. I like talking to people. I like just overall just working with everybody. And it's not just farming. It's also knowing your community. It's also getting in touch with the local businesses. It's also showing people your worth in general. So yes, it was very hard for me when I moved out here from the East Coast because I didn't know anybody. There was nobody I knew out here. The only person I knew was my brother-in-law. That was my extent of my sphere. which everyone in going through real estate school, they kept saying, you have to lean on your sphere, you have to lean on your sphere. And I just kept freaking out inside because I'm like, I don't have anybody besides my brother-in-law and his wife. And to be honest with you, he bought property with somebody else. So it's like, I didn't even like, so that was even the worst part. I was like, so that was like, I'm down to zero. So I had nobody and I didn't know what to do. So a lot of the time in the beginning, I focused on like learning contract, learning the business. And I remember, my mentor, Brian, always said, just do the business, everything else will fall into play. I was very a system person. I was very like, oh, I need to do this first. I need to get this done and then so forth. And then I just dove into it. I got into a lot of open houses and, if something popped up in my farm as an open house, I just milked it. I did it every time I could. I made sure there was enough signs here that you thought it was a graduation party. I mean, I just, whatever I could do, I did. At that point, I talked to everybody that walked by. People also around here know me. I have a 200-pound English Mastiff, which leads to a lot of conversations and just a lot of talking. So the neighbors very quickly just got to know me. And at the end of the day, I just say, just be a good person, be genuine, help people out, and then everything else will fall. Everything else falls together. And I always say that make sure people realize the business is always secondary. So yeah, I tend to, from that I was able to generate, but everyone else that, people always say farming was the old school way of doing things, and you never get anything out of the farming. And that could be true for some people, but at the same point, if you go into the mentality knowing that it's going to take some time, it wasn't something that I just sent out a couple postcards and overnight I got a bunch of business. I had to wait till almost 3 years in to start seeing something in the farm. But, within those 3 years, I was building enough relationships where people in the farm would call me, say, hey, I'm not selling, but can you help my son find a townhouse? Or, I have a client that needs new knees and needs a house with less stairs, and just kind of generated from there. And again, you have to, I felt that where I felt my specialty was making everyone feel special or making everyone feel good. And then making sure and it's not just, how do I put it? It's not even just the clients, it's the other agents on the other side. It's the networking, it's the local businesses. It's just everything all together plays, a pair. So to answer that question, yeah, farming is, almost 100% of my business. And if I look back at all my leads and all my business that I've been able to generate since day one, everything has stemmed from the farm one way or another. If it's a client that was a referral from another client, that the original referral came from the farm, everything comes out of the farm one way or another. But I also take the farm and I have a lot of micro farms within the farm, which seems to help. And also I like a lot. I like doing that because it gives me an opportunity and a little more expanded budget to do a little bit more for some people, in addition to like the entire farm. Because some people do get overwhelmed. They say, well, that's too big. So my farm is about 300 houses that surround my home in general. And then I have a list of 100 within the farm, which I say that was my original list where I started off on year one. And those people I always treat like gold because, again, it's my original farm. And then where my house actually sits, it sits on a horseshoe of 35 homes. And that I would say is my additional micro farm in general. And then, from the farm, outside the farm, I have 2 elementary schools that sit right outside the school, right outside the farm, which is also helpful. Again, everywhere I go, I always feel like I'm always farming. I always feel like I'm planting seeds, no matter where I am. If I end up if I'm a regular at a club somewhere, eventually I'll have signs at the club. I'll know people there. I'll end up selling somebody's house. Even at my kids' schools, I ended up selling almost every preschool teacher a house at this point. I've sold 4 parents in my son's classes a house. I've sold my house cleaners a house. I've sold my painter a house. At some point, if you end up talking to me more than once, I'll end up selling you a house. That's how I end up feeling. So yeah, overall farming is, to me, works out really well. And I understand it doesn't happen, but I've been able to generate, a 6-figure business from it. From not knowing anybody in Minnesota, I've been able to generate a solid 6-figure business that has doubled every year since.
Wow, doubled every year since. You said a lot of things that I want to dig into in another round of questions, but to summarize, I think it starts with just being a good person is what I heard you say.
Absolutely.
And then when you engage with people as a good person consistently, good things start to happen, and it compounds and it compounds and it compounds. And the fact that your business has doubled every year over the last 5 years is a testament to that. So that is awesome. I want to come back to some of the how. You gave us a great what overview, but I want to go to the how in a little bit. But let's round things out with Janine. And Janine, I know a lot about your business. You happen to be in my region, have a ton of respect for you. But what do you have to add to what you heard from Rami and Nancy so far?
All right, so I feel like I am the introvert of Rami. I am a geographic farmer as well. He's the outgoing one, connections here, there. I am the introverted farmer, right? I rather curl up with a book and a blanket at home, yet I want to massively lead generate at the same time. So how do I do it, right? Both of them already dove into the fact that we're not looking for buyer or seller leads. Like this is, I think, something everybody needs to understand. We are looking for relationship leads, okay? If you're out there looking for buyer or seller leads, you're already lost because we are looking at the relationship. Just before we hit the record button, I was sharing with the panel that I am getting to go to a neighbor's house tomorrow that is currently 2 years out. Now I had agents say, why would you even waste your time? And I said, you know what, if I hand you an online lead, on statistic, an online lead is 2 years out. Why do you waste the time? Because we build relationships, right? This is what it comes down to. I don't know if anybody was on the panel last week, I believe, where we had Tom Ferry and the NAR economists speak. But one of the things that stood out to me, and I don't know how many caught it, was the size of Tom Ferry's database. If anybody looked at that, and I'm going to bring it back for the overview of farming, because as an introvert, I'm a number-driven person, right? So Tom Ferry's database, if you guys are looking at it, had 9 million people in there, 9 million. Currently in the US, we have 1.6 million licensed real estate agents. Tom Ferry is not looking to have licensed agents in his database. He has a relationship database, which is what makes him the #1 coach because of his database, right? So when it comes back to database, isn't that the game all of us are playing, right? We want to make sure our database is our book of business. So coming from my business, this is how I approach everything I do. How do I build my database every single day in the most effective way possible? And that's where I guess, the lead generation efforts come in. I find ways to plug systems into place where I can always cast that net and reel them in, just like fishing, right? You put a hook in the water and then you start reeling them in. You're like, come on, I can make you a buyer or seller down the road, right? One of the jokes on my team is we are, treating our tenant leads just like buyers. They are buyers, they just don't know it yet, right? So if you look at lead generation, it comes down to relationships. So geographic farming is one of the things that I do just because it gave me freedom from a time perspective. I got 2 little kids at home, so I wasn't gonna look, to service a tri-state area. I wanted to stay close to home, and building those relationships hyper-locally, hence the hyper-local agent, just worked out really, really well. When it comes to, again, data, this is where I want to be, and I want to make sure that I have enough of the information. Email openings or email marketing is a big part of my lead gen strategy. My email open rate tends to be anywhere between 50 to 60%. Our industry average is about 20% or less, right? So my relationship building is oftentimes done behind a computer until I get in front of them. But at that point, again, introvert perspective, right? They've already raised their hand and said, Janine, can we talk to you? And at that point, I have the go ahead, the green light that says, yes, let's become, clients, friends, whichever one it is.
Awesome. So we're going to dig into that, and I see some questions coming in along those lines already, Janine. I want to go back around to Nancy and ask, so generating the lead or getting someone to raise their hand, as Janine just said, is really only the beginning. I'd love to hear more, Nancy, about what you do like after someone submits their email address in a Prospect Square note or in a brand boost from a listing. Like, what happens after someone comes into your net and you have some contact information on them? How do you go about building engagement in a relationship?
That's a good question. So what I do and what I've done in the past is just like similar what she's talking about is we categorize where that is at. Is it a hot lead, cold lead? Is it something that's going to happen now or in the future? Mm-hmm. So what we'll do is I will qualify each one that comes through. And so I will find out where they're at with their time frame and, if they're, if they're qualified, if they're capable of, getting to the next step. Are they ready right now are they ready, willing and able right now to go out and buy something or sell something? So we will reach back with them, of course, if whatever way it came in, if it came in through, through the ads, or it came in through via the emails and things like that, I'll respond right away to it. We will, I have a backup system in here. I really like to take control of that too, because then what I do with that is I qualify where they're looking at, what their client, what they're coming in on, and then to see, if they're real or somebody you put in the warm leads, okay, and you put them on a follow-up system, and then either depending on what it came in on, if it's one of my agents' leads or things like that, and then I'll engage the agent with it if it's their listing, of course, and so then work with them on it to make sure that lead is followed up. Now that's why if somebody is not able to do it, we always have a backup system of who's working that day. Okay, and with that though, but they usually get a phone call. I like phone calls, or text, depending on how they want to be responded to. We always ask, how, so, I see you called in on this, or I see you just this morning. I did a couple of them actually. And some people wanted to be called at a certain time. Some people wanted to be emailed the information. And so I qualify these people, and I'm really good at that. I guess you just learn how to do that after a while if they're serious or not, or I will hook them up with a lender or somebody that I know that will jump on that call right now or within a few minutes to get to them, so that you don't lose them, because in this day and age, my goodness, they're gone. So if you lose it, then they're gone, So, and that's the worst thing in the world, when you see that name come in and it's on one of your listings and they wrote an offer on it. Yeah, I was wondering how that happened, So, you learn through mistakes over the years too. But yeah, that's something that we do too. And then we follow through. That's why I make sure that if it's a lender we don't know, we get engaged with those lenders, because you can list a house, you can sell a house, but can you close it? So that's all based upon your team that you have in place. And so then we make everybody engaged in that client then from there.
I love that engagement. And I think you're so right that the point of inception is so critical. It's a use it or lose it situation. So I'm wondering, like, one sentence, what's your favorite first question to ask to engage the lead and start the qualifying process?
So are you interested in looking at this property? Are you interested in taking a look at this property? And then they'll say yes, and then I'll just go into the qualification, things, so have you been looking, do you have a realtor? Are you working with someone right now? I always make sure we're good with that. You'd be surprised. I have one right now that is actually looking at my stuff, looking at everything, looking at anything. Finally, when he actually called me about a property, I said, great, would you like to take a look at it? Because he said he's pre-approved, no problem. And then he goes, no, I have an agent. Don't you love that? I'm like, yeah, okay. And he's still looking at our stuff,
Well,
it's like they can't see that.
I love it, because a lot of agents are afraid to ask that question. I was afraid to ask that question as a new agent, and you get down the road with somebody and you realize that, you did a lot of work that you probably shouldn't have. But it sounded so basic. I hope everybody caught it. It sounded so basic. Would you like to see this home today?
Yeah, today.
A lot of agents I see ask a first question of, are you pre-qualified? Or do you want to see other homes? Or they ask a litany of other questions, which are all good. But that question is very, very simple. Would you like to see this home today? Yes. Now you've got them engaged, and you can ask all of those other questions. Awesome, awesome stuff. I want to flip over to Rami and ask you. So you've got all of these farms and all of these micro farms, and you're doing different things with different people. I want to ask the same question to you, though. When someone raises their hand, when somebody engages with your efforts, whether it was an event or a mailer or a door knock, or they saw your Mastiff or whatever, like, what's step one look like in that engagement?
Well, it all depends. It all depends on where they're at in the process. I'll get people to call me and say, hey, can you come over? We're looking to sell our house. If they're calling me to say something like that, or they're saying, or if it's someone saying, hey, I was interested in these properties, it's something as simple as, Nancy said, like, hey, do you want to go see this property? I'm not one to sit there and be like, okay, well, do you have a pre-approval? Do you have all that? Because people, honestly, at the end of the day, they don't want to hear that. When most people are looking online, they want to be able to get in now. They're calling to see And again, since I said in the last conversation, like I'm better in person. If I can sell myself better on the phone, I stumble. I mean, even now, like you're sitting on this thing. I mean, as much as I love to talk and as much as it's nerve wracking, right? You say the wrong things, you stumble, you can't get your thoughts together. But when I'm able to get in front of a person and someone can actually look at you and they can actually see that you're genuine. And I've had that compliment more than once where people say, you know what, at the end of the day, we chose you because you genuinely seem to care. Like, because at the end of the day, when you really do care, it comes across naturally, you know. And I will say in this business is one of the businesses that no matter what business you came from, it will break you down and rebuild you. And, you know, a lot of agents either don't get rebuilt or they get rebuilt. It's very Marine-like, if you want to say, but, you know, I went through ups and downs. You know, I also transformed my life where I get up at 4 a.m. and, you know, I try to better myself. And I will say that would, to me, is probably out of everything I've ever done, that has been the biggest lead generation tactic that I've ever found, because naturally I'm able to have better conversations with people. I have a more positive, you know, feeling vibe, people say, or they want to talk to you. So yeah, so when you sit there and say like, what do I do when somebody calls? I just talk to them. I don't know how to explain it. I mean, if somebody calls, say, hey, I want to sell my house, and I kind of ask them, what's the timeline? Let's get you on the schedule. Let me show up. And then when I do show up, I show up. Right? There's a big difference. And I say, hey, and if they tell me I have a timeline, I'm in a rush, I'd like to see what's going on. And I kind of briefly go over the services that I offer. And I've been very fortunate. I have a great team behind me. I have a great guy that does measurements. I have a great stager that will bend over backwards, and she's fantastic. I have a great painter that's on call that can do a lot of odds and ends. And I have a great general contractor. So a lot of time when I do show up, I'm showing up with everybody. I'm showing up with everybody and I'm making an impression. So my listing appointments are a lot different than probably a lot of people's, where it's not very, you know, structured. It's not me. He's showing, you know, here I have, okay, we're going to go over the comps. We're going to do this. We're going to, like, yes, you will get to the meat and potatoes, but people just want to just talk. Like, I don't know how to say it.
People don't want to know what you know until they know that you care about them, right?
Exactly. And that's how it is. It's 100% what it is.
It's not a script.
Then, yeah, you're right.
You just got to care.
No, absolutely. No, 100%. And then the thing is, you need to have, and you can do all that, but if you don't have a system in place, and, you know, people very easily, and I look at it when I hire contractors, I hire people at my own personal house, you know, you can tell who has a system in place and who doesn't. Absolutely. You know, and again, like even with a listing agreement or anything else or an appointment, I drop off, you know, a pre-listing packet. I drop, you know, I write the handwritten thank you cards. You know, I very much a lot of the old school train of thought, but people see it and they realize it, and it does make you different than other people. So when I do get someone to raise their hands, I jump all over, but I also let them know that I'm easy to communicate with. I'm easy to get a hold of. You want to go look at a house? I don't even talk about contracts prior to maybe the second or third showing. And I sit there and say, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I want to get you in. I want to do what's best for you. And then when they realize that and we start moving forward, there is no other thought. And you know what? I also tell them half the time, I encourage them to go talk to other agents, because I know what I can provide and I know what I can do. And at the end of the day, if they go interview other agents and they find a better fit, then that's fantastic. And I'm happy for them. And I'm not going to be everyone's fit. And I get that. And everyone's not going to be my fit. And at the same time, because I'm really looking for those genuine relationships. I'm looking for those friendships. I can tell you only one client in the last 5 years that I'm not really friends with anymore. Like and I'm still upset about it on a daily basis. But they all come to my events. They all come to our parties. They all could take advantages of, you know, my postcards. I chat with them all, like Nancy says, she gets a hold of 5. I try to on every week to try to at least, and it sounds crazy, but I at least try to reach out to at least a few of them and just check on them. I never ask them for anything. I just check on them. Hey, how's things going? How's the new house?
Especially
how's the
now.
kids? How's the grandkids?
How about especially now through COVID and everything, because we're not out there as much as we used to be. I used to host a
even more now
event for the clients, just thank you. It's been hard. So now to really,
and you know what? People love it, and people absolutely love that.
Yeah. I think events are back. I think in 2022,
I'm so excited.
Events are back.
I'm super excited.
That I'm coaching, we're like working on what's your calendar look like? When are you going to do this and when are you going to do that? I'd like to go to the audience if it's okay with our panelists. Yeah. We have my friend Andy Mayashiba of the firm out of the Milwaukee market. Andy, I'm going to unmute your mic. I thought your question was really great. I'd love for you to ask it personally. So go ahead, Andy. You should be allowed to unmute and ask your question.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, I think as realtors, we all have been in sort of rah-rah sort of seminars where we hear a lot of like, okay, this is what the results that we're getting. You should get excited. You can do this. I think a lot of us are looking for actionable advice. what is the one thing that you're confident 90% of us are not doing that we should all start doing today?
Love that question. Janine, let's start with you.
Awesome. I saw that one, and I figured I'll answer that one when my turn comes. All of the things that you heard everybody say so far is lead generation is problem solving, right? Solve a problem for your surroundings in order to generate leads. So one of the things that most agents do not do is they do not work inside their business. Everybody is out there chasing the next thing, right? What's next? Where's the next buyer? Where's the next seller? But the working inside the business part is the follow-up. And the follow-up gets dropped way more than anything else. It doesn't take that much to put something in place that will catch your leads on a follow-up basis to continue nurturing them along as you get busy working inside your business, right? So work on your business by putting those things in there. Most people are just not sure what to do. So for me, it's email marketing. If I put a buyer lead in there, they're going to get dripped on for at least 2 years. In those 2 years, I have time to go back, check their statistics. Are they opening up the emails? Can I call them and just offer them more value, right? Some of the other things that I was going to dive into, because I saw the question, like, what do I email? Again, lead generate by problem solving. How do I problem solve? Hey, can I offer you a moving guide? One of our, buyers just took advantage of our free moving guide. It's updated for 2022. It shows you all the amazing things that you can do right now to get your boxes organized, so you know where everything's at. Absolutely free. Go ahead. It's yours to keep, right? Like, that is providing value to them. It's solving a problem of, like, I don't even know where to start. Do I start boxing up first? Do I start looking at quotes for movers? What do I do? People don't know. You do. This is what we do for a living. So call me, in my term, is not a lead generation tool. This is not enough in today's day and age to say, let me get some leads going. So events was the other part that I dove in. One of my biggest events in the area is a neighborhood garage sale. A neighborhood garage sale does what? It solves a problem for my sellers. They want to get rid of their stuff and they want to make money. Do you think they're going to hire the real estate agent afterwards that just made the money without them even hiring me? There's people that say, you know what, we just made a mortgage payment from the amount we sold. Thank you so much. The next call is, Janine, I would love for you to come over and look at our house. We're getting ready to sell. Right? So that's, I guess, a little bit on that end. Work on your business and not just in your business, and then put systems and processes in place.
Yeah, love it.
Systems is huge.
On your business, not in systems and processes. But I really want to shine a spotlight on what you said about solving a problem. And in fact, that's what we're all in the business of doing as salespeople. The number one reason for us to exist is we are paid to solve people's problems. I thought what you said there was brilliant. And Rami, I stepped on you. You were about to add to that.
No, I was just saying that's huge. So the one, like, to answer his question, it says, what do we, I feel like the other agents don't do is they don't provide value. A lot of agents out there, unfortunately, and I hate to say it, they're selfish. They're selfish. It's all about them. It's about the billboard up on the sign. It's about how can I generate, what can I do? What can I, it's me, 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 me. And people see that all day long. It's not about that. The one thing I will say that I've had multiple people have told me, and I've learned it from my grandfather and my father and back in the past, is just never ask for business. There's no reason to ever ask for business. And I know that sounds crazy, especially in the business that we're in, but if you never ask for business, you'll get more business than you can ever ask for. And at the end of the day, it's even with my postcards. I do, I have, like I said, I have my farm area, and I have, there's different techniques of getting to know people and so forth that I've generated. And again, systems in place, people will see it and people know it and they feel comfortable, and it's from every other business in my past that I've ever ran or did or managed, that you learn that very quickly. And again, when you provide value constantly, people know what you do. There's only so many times I can tell people I'm a realtor, I can sell your house. People get it. They get it and they get tired of it. And eventually they tune you out, right? It's like notifications that you constantly get. You just end up tuning it out. But if you constantly have some value there, then other agents aren't doing. Like, I don't want to get a postcard that's like, oh, I can sell your house for 4%. Like, I get it. We'll talk about that later. I want to let me send you something of value. And, I hook up with a lot of, local vendors, lot of local restaurants and companies. and I try to get some value. If it's something where I match, somebody saying, hey, I'll buy 200 cups of coffee if you match me 200 cups of coffee, or you're a new business, would you provide coffee if I send out a postcard? And since I'm paying for the postcards anyways already, then why not put something better on there? I don't know. I look at it as half my postcards I get, I throw away before I even go into the garage door. And I do it all the time. And I send postcards out on a monthly basis. And that's the big thing. You have to send out something constantly. I've had multiple people in the farm that will call me and say, hey, we're looking to sell our house. We feel like we should at least interview you, considering how much you've done in the neighborhood and how much you provided, how much value. And at the end, they almost kind of feel like they owe you. And I'm not sitting there. I want to make people feel that way, but I want to be on the top of the mind, since, and I've also gotten the odd compliment of saying, hey, you're the postcard guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm the postcard guy. Yeah, that's me. Like, yes. Or they'll message me and they'll call me and says, hey, we really appreciate those cookies you sent. Or, I just did it this morning. I bought 500 Girl Scout cookies, and I do it every year. And I send out, and I have these stickers here that are all made up. And you can see here, there's a roll of 500, and it just says Rami the Realtor, teams up with the local kids to support local organizations. And it's a local girl here, and then she'll go hand deliver 500 cookies. And I will say, this girl, she'll become a realtor one day, because the way she sells, it's unbelievable. She'll go, Rami the Realtor is bringing you guys cookies. And then she'll sell another box of cookies while she's at the door. Then she'll end up having like 3,000 boxes sold, but I'll buy 500 boxes of cookies from her, 400 for the farm, and 100 where she'll set up a booth over at the local supermarket one day. And then for every 4 boxes of cookies she sells, Rami the Realtor will give you a free box. And then at that time, I look at it in my brain as, how else can I bring some more value to the table? I send her with 100 water bottles. And I sit there and say, it's a lot cheaper for me to give it to her, to give it out, because she's already doing it. So there's little stuff like that. So at the end of the day, why you say, like, what do people don't do? They don't provide value. It's all about themselves. And it can't be about yourself, because people will see through that in a heartbeat.
Wow, there was so much.
This was good. This was just really good, Rami, just so you know.
Like, I can keep it. Listen, at the end of the day, if I can go back, there's a million different weird things. I say weird things because people coming from the East Coast, people look at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? Or why would he do that? Like, or people, especially in Minnesota, they're like, yeah, okay, no, okay, a little too much. But then they realize, like, you care.
So yes, I know the weird things. My husband had the Easter Bunny costume, and he was handed babies literally, and everybody had a blast.
So. Yeah, I know. And then my wife thinks I'm crazy, but God bless her soul. Like, I couldn't do it without her. But she'll turn around and says, I remember that one day I turn around and I tell her, hey, just so you know, I invited a bunch of people over for pizza and a movie, which turned into our back to school movie night that we do every year when school starts. And she said, well, how many people could you have? How many people did you invite? Like, off your list? I said, no, the whole list. Unless she's like, what do you mean? I was like, I'm 400 people. She's, yeah.
It works.
And you know what? And it works. And 150 people showed up. They're all sitting on my grass watching a movie. I had all the neighbors out here. It's good. People, and now they look forward to it. Some of them actually will call me and say, hey, when are you doing that? Because I want to make sure that we plan our trips around it, or we want to be there because we love connecting. Or I'll get the phone calls back saying, you know what, Rami, thanks for hosting that. You really brought the neighborhood back to life, where we used to do this when we were younger, and we used to have the Easter egg hunts and so forth, and now nobody's doing it. But also I get like, hey, just so you know, my daughter met the neighbor behind you that we never knew before and got her internship at an Ecolab, or we're very grateful and thanks for that, because if it wasn't for you, we would have never done that. And it's small stuff like that, honestly, to me, that's more rewarding than the paycheck all day long. Don't get me wrong. I like the money.
I'm feeling rewarded and inspired. I want to allow more questions from the audience. Let's go up to one of my favorite towns, Duluth, Minnesota. Joe Froelich. I'm going to unmute you. And while you're finding the mute button, in addition to Joe's question, I'd be curious to hear from each of you what CRM you use. So Joe, go ahead and ask your question. Joe, can you find the mute button? All right, it's cold in Duluth, and the mute button may. Oh, there he is.
Yep, actually,
there he is.
Can you hear me now?
We got you.
Yes.
Okay. My question was, when you're dealing with all of the personal life details of clients, how do you keep that straight? Is that something that's in your database? You have this list of 400 or 500 people. How do you keep Sally and Susie straight? Who has 2 kids? Who has 3 kids? All that stuff. How do you guys keep that straight?
So can we start with Nancy? What database do you use, and then how do you keep everybody straight? And then we'll go around the bend. Thank you, Joe.
Well, we have a couple different programs we use. Top Producer is what I started with. But real quickly though, for my newer clients, when I meet anyone on the street, wherever I meet, if they have a business card, I put on my phone the app that takes the picture of the business card and it goes, directly into there. Okay, so I have a database of my business cards, which is awesome. I love that because it gives you all the details. Okay, but if it's an informal situation that I'm at, and it's really funny, you guys, it works for me. Okay, and I put in there how I would in my mind remember them, so I met these people and it was at a rodeo. So Rodeo Joe, well, Rodeo Joe wanted 5 acres. Okay, I know it's crazy, but yeah. I have 2 phones, you guys. I have my business phone and my personal phone too. But in those databases, and then when I come to upload and I get things organized with I have an assistant a full-time assistant that I hired. She's like, okay, what's the story on this one? And ironically, I'll remember stories, whatever works for you, but I remember the story then, or I'll put something about the house that I went to look at or the property, it's something, word association works for me. And then that works. It really does. Now we just came over here to Coldwell Banker, so we are working on uploading everything into the new systems here. Of course, we came here in September, but MailChimp is one that we use. That goes. I already have everybody in my system for my mail out my Christmas cards, always. Things like that. But I word associate a lot of people to how I met them. And it just works. It really does. And then after I even sell a house, I'll put, I have a form that they'll fill out, I have a form when they take the listing or when we take a listing or working with the buyers, and it gives us all their information, and we ask them how many children they have, when's their anniversary. And I always send something out of the anniversary of the closing date that we closed on whatever property it was. And you'd be surprised at what you could get with that too, the residuals. It's huge.
I love it. Now I'm going to remember Rodeo Joe. Thank you for that, Nancy. Janine, what CRM do you use, or what CRMs do you use if you use multiple? And how do you keep all this stuff straight about people?
Right. So I use a system called Insightly, just because it's pretty and it's a checklist system. So I can literally just check mark. And then MailChimp in conjunction with that. So MailChimp and Insightly are the 2 foundational systems. Rounding it out, the third one is our instant CMA. From a business perspective, you have a CRM, you have an automated email provider, and an automated CMA tool. Your business is off the ground. Like, you have a solid foundation to build from. So that's what I personally use.
Okay.
Love it. Rami, what CRM do you use, and how do you keep all these people straight?
Well, I will say that couple things that I will say, that when you truly, genuinely care about your business and you care about your clients, you don't need as many systems in place for that, in the sense of when you're very involved with your clients and you know them, at the end of the day, you know them, right? You just need a little couple reminders here and there. And again, a big thing I use is the Coldwell Bankers, website, and I use their CRM, and it lets me put a lot of the automated stuff in there, the happy birthdays, the anniversaries, and I put that information in there. And like with my system in place, once I do get a client, I automatically, I upload them to that, but I upload them to, my Google contacts, or that's all on my phone. I'm very tech-based, if you want to say, where I run my business off my phone, my laptop, and my external hard drive. I can take my external hard drive, my phone, and, travel with the kids and travel with everyone and be able to log into any computer and to get things done. And my phone is always on me, unfortunately. I always say, if it wasn't for this business, I'd be off the grid somewhere with nothing. So a lot of times I just make sure that when I put a contact in, I'm putting the contacts in, I'm putting the wife's information, the husband's information, their birthdays in that phone. I'm putting the emails in. I'm on the notes. I'm putting in there 2 kids and a cat. I'm putting in the 2 dogs. I'm putting in information there. So when I am calling them, I can have them on speakerphone and I can review the notes real quick and just kind of get quick little pointers, or little hints and reminders that make people feel special. But again, when you genuinely care about people, it's a lot easier to remember. It's the same way I remember, because I treat all my clients are my friends. And I know it sounds crazy, and there's a lot of them at the end of the day, but when you can make people feel genuine and good and it's natural, it's a lot easier. So truthfully, I probably could have better other programs, if you want to say, but I use the CRM through Coldwell Banker. I use my phone, I use the Google, contacts, and it really works out really well. And I just keep in touch. I don't know. It's hard to sit there and say, but another thing is, a big one for me is Facebook. Facebook,
Huge.
it makes life a lot, it's huge, you know,
Huge.
and all my clients eventually, most of them, 90% of them have Facebook. A lot of them become my friends, and a lot of them, and the trick is to learn the algorithms on Facebook to really be able to be top of mind on Facebook, on either on the ads that you run, or make sure that you're messaging them for their birthday, private messaging them, you're commenting on stuff. You want to make sure you're involved in a lot of the community groups and make sure that you're also giving value there as well. And people are just constantly, and you can see if their dog died, you can see if their cat died. You know, there's little stuff like that. There are big things in life that they would never expect their realtor to be involved in or to contact them. So when you do contact them, they realize, like, you know what, he's not just my realtor, he actually really is a friend, and so forth, or an anniversary, or their kids have, you know, exactly. If you're just real, it's just real, and that's how I would treat anybody.
Yeah, be careful what you put on there too, because you know, you want
to be huge. That's huge.
You're in the business.
Huge.
You're on the streets every day.
Be neutral. Just Switzerland all day long.
Exactly.
You got to be Switzerland all day
politics.
long.
Yeah.
No, there's no politics. There's nothing else about. And honestly, most of the stuff I post is either pictures of my 200-pound dog doing something silly, or my kids and my family. Because at the end of the day, that is what my life is. I'm not portraying something silly. Yes, I can put my opinions out there and I can do that stuff, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, but you're gonna limit yourself.
Our pool of clients is you're gonna limit yourself, and I'm already limited. I was like, what? I was like, there's already enough people that don't want to fast talk.
Yeah, I try and tell the agents too, because I'm maxed out on Facebook. So at least at 10 a day, and it has to be that you have mutual
one way or another.
Mutual friends, maybe one or two mutual friends. Keep adding 10 a day. You'd be shocked at how much business you can get. On the average, we get a couple of deals a week, at least from Facebook. Yeah,
and also, and be real.
I know we could keep going all day long. We're a minute over already. This has been an amazing discussion. The 45 minutes went so fast. Rami Karmut, Nancy Frigo, Janine Sasso, thank you for your insight, for your ideas, and for your time. I've seen lots of accolades in the chat. Thank you all for attending our second View from the Top panel on 2/2/22. We look forward to seeing you again next month for View from the Top. Appreciate everybody's time. My name is Bob Burns. Hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.